FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Zuckerberg regarded that as a total plus for humankind.
Yes.
And I do think the privacy question is profound. I think it's over. I don't think there is any privacy unless you want to withdraw completely from this world.
But there's so much cruelty, unfortunately, that goes along with it, and particularly amongst young kids. I mean, I think there is so much cruelty. This whole notion of creating this public world where everybody's having a good time except for you is creating a tremendous amount of loneliness and pain, I think, amongst young people who feel that somewhere else all the time is the evidence that they can see on Facebook and so on, that everyone but them is having a good time. Because the truth is that in this display that goes on Facebook, it's very often posturing. And kids don't understand that, you know, when kids are posting pictures of everybody having a great time, they're not really, you know. It's they're fake pictures. They're all this kind of, you know.
But I think they know that.
It's the only picture that kids ever put on a Facebook, you know. And there's all these other kids looking at the picture thinking, I wasn't asked, I wasn't there. And then they write terrible things about each other.
Oh, that's always been the case.
No, but it's vile. And
isn't there
there's a lot of vileness there too. So I don't think we should just be quite so sort of polyandrous about it.
Isn't there something about? I mean,
isn't
there something about a genuine relationship that one has with another human being, which is premised on the idea that you say things to that person, you have a connection to that person that you shut the world out from. And so, what does it do if you basically if you're sending everything constantly out to the whole world? How do you maintain?
Well, you're not necessarily sending it to the whole world. That's where Zuckerberg got in some trouble, I think, is he confused the idea of a public and the public. Right? Facebook is an incredible tool to create a private public. Here are the people I'm talking to. Now, the truth is, if backstage I say something to you, and you can then spread it to the world. You, of all people, can spread it to the world, right? And so I've come to think that the issue of privacy and publicness is this, that privacy is an ethic of the recipient of information. You receive my information. It's now in your hands. It's up to you. It's on your shoulders what you do with that. Publicness is my obligation. If I know something that can help someone, and I wrote about my prostate cancer, it helped people that I did so, and that was my decision to make. And if I didn't, well, then I held back some value that could have helped someone. And so I think we have to rethink this issue. And I don't think everyone is making everything public. There are new mores and new norms that are being created here, and technology always frightens us. We did not discuss a legal right to privacy in this nation until 1890, and it was because of the invention of the Kodak camera. And Louis Brandeis and his co-author at the Harvard Law Review were frightened because Mr. Warren's daughter's wedding had been photographed, and the penny press was a way to expand that, and we got very scared. And what they came back to in the end is they couldn't find a right to privacy in the Constitution. We have a right to publicness, it's the First Amendment, but not really a right to privacy. And whenever technology has come, it involves change, and change unsettles us, and we get scared of that, and then we look for all the bad things that can happen, and we worry about them, and then we should, because we should guard against cruelty and bad things that can happen. But we also shouldn't manage our entire world around that. But I don't think everyone is spreading their whole life online all the time.
No.
I have talked on the web about my malfunctioning penis. That goes pretty far, having had prostate cancer, right?
Thank you for sharing that.
I thought you'd like that. So yes, I'm more public in many ways and forms than I could have been and should have been before, but I still see benefit in that.
But you're not as public as Brett Favre at this point.
No. If you want to lend me your phone, I could try that. But
the point
it's a sad picture, Andrew. It's a sad picture.
Well, I think it all depends the angle. But what amazed me about that actually was the day after it happened, I happened to be at CNN, and the gossip was not about that somebody's private part had been broadcast to the world, something he obviously clearly intended for one other person, was suddenly everybody is available to, which I do think is a form of cruelty, however famous he is. It's a form of humiliation and embarrassment. People need a boundary between public and private, or we will be destroyed.
No, I don't think anyone disagrees with that.
Well, my point is simply that, yes, your distinctions are true, but the minute you engage in this world virtually, anything you have said or written to anybody, let alone any sexual stuff or private stuff, or just an email or an instant message blowing your top about something, all the things that human beings seek privacy to protect themselves from, now anybody with no scruples can broadcast it to the world every minute, which means that we're sort of back to, I think in some ways, the old world where people lived in such small communities that everybody literally knew everything.
Do you believe
But
that
even
most of the
then-
people you deal with have no scruples? It's the
Yes.
rare Moses. Really?
Well, the fact is
I
that
don't-
anyone in public life can be destroyed by one of these emerging
Or we become more
sound bites.
tolerant. Or we have
The other question is,
doctrine of
are-
mutually
where we-
assured
well,
humiliation.
Well, we have already entered the post-embarrassment age.
Yes, I think so.
Because,
That's why I said that what they were
because
talking
the fact is that
about-
all these candidates who ran, nothing that they'd done in their past seemed to matter
Yeah.
at all. You know, so it's as if it doesn't really matter. Maybe the new way of doing things is going to be that, you know, everybody knows everything and nothing matters.
And nobody cares.
Isn't it
Except
true?
for pedophilia or, you know, maybe even that. It's just, you know, it just is, you know, oh yes, well it happened
Okay,
then.
but the
That
causes
was
of
then.
humiliation before were, for example, being homosexual. And what was the weapon against that? Was to stand out and say, hey, you got a problem with this? The courage that it took people to come out of the closet and
now you
stand in public and dare those who would shove them back in the closet.
But there's also
Yeah,
people who've done things
They're
like
all-
embezzle money for their companies, and they're also running for office and so forth. I mean, it's like it doesn't seem to matter. They just say, well, that was then. I've erased that from my wall or whatever, you know. I've just...